I think you have all seen creatures with one head, not with 2, 3, 4, 5 heads. What happened if you suddenly came across a creature with multiple heads? If that's a good-looking creature, you will be surprised. If I talk on Hinduism and its evolution, which I propose to do today, you will come across a similar situation. You have seen faiths, religions, to be more specific, which have one founder. Muhammad for Islam, Jesus for Christianity, Buddha for Buddhism. But here is a faith, here is a religion which has many progenitors, and because of that, it should not be compared with a single founder religion. Actually, today I propose to talk to you on a very specific religion or stream of religion called Bhagavad Dharma, which means the spiritual or religious stream emanating from the Bhagavad Gita, the great and well-known book in the world. But since that Bhagavad Gita sprang on a battlefield in India and is embedded in the Sanatana Dharma like a gem, we should not consider it a separate religion altogether, but a branch of Hinduism, a higher branch, or I would call the highest branch. Hinduism is known to be the most ancient religion of the world, the most ancient religion. Much before Christ was born, or Muhammad was born, or Buddha was born. The most ancient stream of Hinduism is the Vedic stream, emanating from the 4 Vedas, the Manusmriti, which is the spokesperson for the Vedas practically, the Upanishads, which contain the spiritual knowledge of the Vedas, and the Brahmins, the Brahmin books, which lay down the Vedic rituals. This stream of Hinduism, called the Vedic religion, was the mainstream religion of India, of Hindus. It had its own character. After the Puranas were written, the 18 Mahapuranas and the 18 Upapuranas, and the story of Rama was written, the Ramayana, which is called Itihasa, history, and the Mahabharata, another stream of history which depicts Lord Krishna and many other characters. This stream became very popular, so popular that it almost sidelined the Vedic faith and reduced it from the mainstream to a trickle. So then the times came for the Puranic religion emanating from the Puranas. Along with the Vedic religions and the Puranic religion, there were many more streams flowing parallelly in India, in Hinduism. One of them was the Agam Dharma, or the Tantric stream of faith. Another was emanating from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which are more of a spiritual stream than a religious stream. And similarly, there were many more. Among the Puranas, the generally considered the greatest Purana is Bhagavad Purana. And the Bhagavad Purana gave rise to a very strong and very pure stream called Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Purana, Bhagavad Dharma. It was centered on Lord Narayana, also called Vishnu, and his incarnation, human incarnation, Lord Krishna, and bhakti or loving devotion to them was the main way of worshipping. But among all these streams and many others, the most remarkable stream that this faith, this pious land, this sacred land gave rise to was the Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Dharma means the dharma or the faith or the religion that sprang from the Bhagavad Gita, the most celebrated book of its class in the world today. It is widely read by followers of all faiths, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and people from all faiths, the best of minds in the world, from science, from literature, from history, from sociology, from whatnot. They have heaped their praise upon this book as on no other book in the world. Einstein, Oppenheimer, T.S. Eliot, Huxley, Humboldt, endless names. Unfortunately, the religion founded through the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna, the incarnation of God the Supreme, the ideas propounded in the Bhagavad Gita did not quite match with the existing deeply ingrained ideas of the Vedas and even the Puranas. In addition, they were so high, so pure, it was very difficult for the common people to follow the faith embedded in the Bhagavad Gita. But it always existed as a stream in which the highest of saints, the best of saints, immersed themselves. Now, when the limitations of most religions are apparent to the world, the Vedic faith, the Puranic faith, the other Abrahamic faiths, and the world is really looking for something more sensible, then this Bhagavad Gita and its religion have become very pertinent. And this is the time that this stream of spirituality, this pure stream of religion, a very sensible religion shorn of all misconceptions, all superstitions, and all strangeness, becomes the main flow of Hinduism, and not only Hinduism. This is a universal faith, universal religion, inclusive faith, which will appeal to the best of minds in the world and to the youth and the grown-ups equally. So today, I wish to show you how these different streams of Hinduism differ from each other in their character. When you distinguish between two faiths or two religions, what are the criteria? I can identify 4 criteria. One is the deities or the deity that is worshipped, the character of the deity, the nature of the deity. The second is the way the deity is to be worshipped. The third is the goals of that faith, the main goals to be achieved through the worship, through the spiritual practice in that religion for this life and for the afterlife. And the fourth is the social system and the principles of ethics. These 4 criteria can easily distinguish, clearly separate one religion from another. Now take the Vedic faith, the Vedic religion. Who were the deities of the Vedic religion? There were multiple deities, but the main were Indra, Varuna, and Agni. These were being worshipped by the Vedic people. How were they being worshipped? The main method of worship was to light a holy fire and to pour oblations into that. What oblations? Various kinds of grains, clarified butter, and even somaras. This is the way of worshipping that the Vedicists practiced mainly. Another was tapa, inflicting torture upon oneself in various ways by shunning food, shunning water, standing for long years on one foot, etc. The third point was, what were the goals they wished to achieve through the spiritual practice by pouring oblations into the fire? Speaking clearly, and based on the general practice, the aim was fulfillment of various kinds of desires which humans have, various kinds of fire yajnas for various kinds of wishes and desires to be fulfilled. This was for this life, and thereafter, after death, the highest destination, the main destination was heaven, which can be really compared to the Abrahamic heaven of Christianity or even Islam, where you have all kinds of sensual pleasures available. These were the goals to be achieved by the Vedic faith. If we come to the Puranic faith, there was a substantial change. The deities were replaced. No more worship of Indra, Varuna or Agni. New deities replaced them. The trinity of Hinduism, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Saraswati, Lakshmi, Uma, Shakti, these became the most important deities to be worshipped. Again, many deities being worshipped, even though it is not polytheistic in the sense in which generally it is considered. Ultimately, God was one which was formless, but many deities sprang up. So, the Vedic deities were replaced by these new deities. Now, what about the method of worship? The Vedic fire yajnas were replaced practically. They were relegated to the background and new ways of worshipping sprang up. Essentially, the main was idol worship, which was not present during the Vedic era. Idol worship was the main, but not the only one, by the way. The tapa, in which the torture was inflicted upon oneself for spiritual attainments, continued in Puranic Dharma also, but Murti Puja became the main instrument of worship. What about the goals to be achieved? Goals were mixed. The Vedicists were more into fulfillment of desires, more into, not only into this, but more into it. The Puranic stream was a little less given to desire fulfillment. They also looked for a release from the cycle of birth and death, together with sensual fulfillments. And after death, the Vedic ideal or the Vedic destination of Swarga or heaven was replaced generally by the higher realms like Shivalok, Brahmalok of Lord Brahma, not Brahma, the God, the Supreme, Brahma is a deity, and Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan's abode. So, the Vedic destination after death was replaced, practically replaced, not totally replaced, by higher realms, higher spiritual realms of Vaikuntha, Shivalok and Brahmalok, and many others. And the social system and principles of ethics, they differed widely from the Vedicists. In the sense, the social system created by the Vedas largely continued, but it was not as stringent as earlier. The hierarchical of Brahmins, then Kshatriyas, which means the warriors. Brahmins mean the priests, priestly class, then the warriors and administrators, then the merchants and agriculturists, and at the bottom, the people who served all of them, the manual workers. This continued by and large, but little diluted. So, there was no substantial change in the social order practically, but ethics did change. That also remained diluted, partly Vedic ethics, partly other ethics. It was loose. The principles became a little more relaxed. So, the Puranas did not bring a revolution, truly speaking, except for the fact that the system of oblations into fire was set aside, put aside, and idol worship started. I would not like to go deeply into the other minor streams of religion. I would straight away come to Bhagavad Dharma, the religion of the Bhagavad Gita. It completely altered the situations in all manners. Take, for instance, the deities to be worshipped. The Bhagavad Gita is unambiguous. Don't have deities to be worshipped, have a deity. Worship only God, one God the Supreme and none else, ideally. Even though it admits there are other divinities also, but they are also like human beings, more powerful probably, yes, more powerful. But they are also creatures, they are not creators. Creator is only God. All other deities, major or minor, are creatures like human beings and any other creature, except for the fact that they are more powerful, more divine. This is a major shift from both the Vedic and Puranic traditions. One God to be worshipped and none else. All others have to be honored, respected, but not to be worshipped. Second point, which I mentioned, the second criterion, the method of worship. The Bhagavad Gita again relegated to the background the fire yajnas of the Vedas and created many other yajnas, including Jnana Yajna. If you study the Bhagavad Gita, it is better than lighting fire, holy fire, and pouring oblations into it. Very clearly he says, Dravya Yajna is inferior to Jnana Yajna. Then Japa Yajna. He said, Yajna Nam Jap Yajyosmi, chanting of names is better than lighting fire and pouring oblations into that. Similarly, God has presented various kinds of yajnas, sidelining the Vedic yajna and also sidelining the idol worship, by the way. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is no mention of, no recommendation of idol worship. It doesn't negate either. There are many sayings of God, utterances of God, which indicate that idol worship is okay, good, but the emphasis is not there on the idol worship. The emphasis, the focus, both in the Vedic system and the Puranic system, was outside. Mostly what Lord Krishna did, or what God did in the Bhagavad Gita, was to turn the focus inside. The emphasis was placed on bhava sanshuddhi, emotional cleansing, shed all the negative emotions, anger, lust, greed, and all others, and acquire the positive emotions, love, friendship, compassion, and similar others. Then only your land will be prepared for the crop of spirituality, or else the land means here the mind which is dirty with negative emotions. You cannot expect the crop of spirituality to grow on that. So clean your mind, clean your character, sattva sanshuddhi. So the focus was turned inside. Emphasis came from outside to inside. It was a major revolution, major change in the method of worshipping the deity. So the ambiguous polytheism of Puranas or the Vedas was clearly discarded, and clear, unambiguous monotheism was propounded in the Bhagavad Gita. Now we come to the third criterion of what goals are to be achieved through spirituality and spiritual practice. We clarified what goals were prescribed by the Vedicists and the Puranic scholars or the saints. But the Gita is again very unambiguous about that. The goal of life, human life, is not to pander to emotions and to the senses, sense organs. On the contrary, he recommends that eliminate your worldly desires. If you want to be happy, eliminate them. You enjoy things, but without attachment to them. That is called anasakti. None of these books, you read the Vedas, read the Upanishads, never they mention about this. I am talking of the ancient Upanishads, not of the later Upanishads, not the medieval era Upanishads. They don't emphasize anasakti. They don't know probably about anasakti adequately. Here God says that you can enjoy things moderately, everything in the world, but the senses must be kept under control, and you should shed your attachment to the worldly desires and their fruits. Do whatever you do in the spirit of duty and as an offering to God, but never get attached to the fruits of your actions. If you shed your attachment, then only you can be happy in life. So the Gita focuses on happiness. Be happy in this life and beyond, and be happy forever by breaking the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, there was a huge departure from the Vedic and the Puranic streams in this respect also. Unambiguous emphasis on managing your desires and shedding attachment to everything that is worldly. And after death, he recommends neither heaven. Well, you can go to heaven, that's a good thing. He doesn't deny that. He admits there is a heaven. He admits there are various other realms, spiritual realms above heaven. But you should not aim at any of them. You should aim at something which permanently liberates you from the cycle of birth and death. Whichever realm you go to, the highest being the Brahmalok, the realm of Lord Brahma, the creator, not God the Supreme, the creator, the chief engineer of God. That is the highest realm. But from there also, after remaining there for long periods, you have to come back to the same murky material existence. Therefore, they do not provide you liberation from the cycle of birth and death. For that, you have to attain nirvana, moksha, permanent release from suffering. This is the object of all the spiritual practice: happiness here and hereafter. Fourth criterion, if you take, which is the social system and the principles of ethics, again here there is a radical departure. He says in unambiguous terms, Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chav Shapake Pandita Samadarshina. Only he is enlightened who views equally and treats equally a Brahmin and a Shudra. The highest stratum in the Vedic system, Brahmin, and the lowest stratum, the Shudra, view them equally. There could not have been more radical a departure from the traditional Hinduism as far as this is concerned. He does not destroy the Varna system totally as a concept, but destroys it in another way. He delinks it from lineage, parentage, and birth. You will not be a Shudra because you are born a Shudra to Shudra parents. You will not be a Brahmin because you are born to Brahmin parents. Nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita, show me anybody if you can. He links it with birth. He says Guna, Swabhav and Karma, which means your attributes, natural, your nature and your occupation. Varna means that. If you are a warrior, wherever you are born, then you are a Kshatriya. This is the clarity that he gave to the humankind, especially the Hindus, not to go for that caste system and the Varna system. Now, the principles of ethics. This is a very wide area, but with the crumbling of the Varna system based on lineage, the entire principle ethical structure of the Vedicists and the Puranas crumbles. Therefore, Bhagavad Dharma is a dharma or a religion which is totally egalitarian, humanistic, monotheistic, and it gives you the options to practice this way or that way. He offers 10 paths to liberation and God attainment. One is the path of knowledge called Jnana Yoga. Another is the path of devotion called loving devotion called Bhakti Yoga. The third is the Karma Yoga, the greatest of all in one sense, because 99% of people are not going to opt for renunciation. So they have to practice Karma Yoga, all of them. So Karma Yoga means the path of detached action. The path of meditation, you have an option. It depends on your nature, which path you like. God is one, but paths are many. So there is tolerance. Then There are 6 more paths laid down by him, which I can't tell in this session, but he gives many options. One God, many paths. Depends on your own nature and your own preference. So this is what Bhagavad Dharma is in the context of evolving Hinduism. It is not detached from Hinduism, but it's the higher level, higher branch of Hinduism given by God himself. There is no book in Hinduism which claims itself seriously to be the word of God. Only the Bhagavad Gita. The Vedicists claim that the Vedas are also the word of God, but the word used is not that. The word used is aparusheya, not created by humans. It has a different connotation altogether. They basically say that the mantras of the Vedas are not created by humans or rishis. They were seen or caught by the rishis, because those sound vibrations are everywhere, very divine, very powerful, and truly they were powerful. They are not joking, really, I tell you. At one time they were very powerful, today they may not be. So they are not created by humans, but doesn't mean that they were created by God. They might have been created by gods, the various deities, various mantras. But here there is a clarity. God speaks in first person, singular number. I do this, I say this, I am God. The rishis don't say they are God. They are all the time praying to lesser gods for minor favors. Give me money, give me security, give me cows. Why would God go and pray to lesser deities, his creatures, for small favors? But rishis most of the time are asking for favors, for security. So this is the book which is clearly the word of God, and this is not just a claim, because everybody who reads that finds it, the substance in it, that substantiate that none other than God could speak such great things. Because if anybody could, they would have created a book of that kind anywhere else. Therefore, this is what Bhagavad Dharma is, and how it is different from all other streams of Hinduism, I just clarified. The only request or prayer I can make today to all of you who are listening to me, that please, 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 once read the Bhagavad Gita, and also read any other book you like together with that. The Upanishads, the Vedas, and any other book you like. And then the best thing is to taste it. How good is the food? Any description will not suffice. You have on the table the whole lot of food items. Go and taste yourself and find which is the most nutritious and which is the most tasty. Hari Sharanam.